On today's episode, we're going to talk about 4 options to bring print-on-demand production in-house. Let's get into it. Greetings, all you beautiful people out there in the print-on-demand multiverse. Once again, thank you for joining us here at the Print-on-Demand Cast. While we have you, before we get into the nitty-gritty, as it were, if you're whatever you're listening to us on, however you're finding us, if you leave us a review, share the content, let people know that we're out there, because we feel like this content's valuable, and you do too, which is why you are here with us each and every week. And who is us? Well, as always, I am joined by my co-host, Travis Ross. Travis, once again, for Make Your Mark Design, but a little less back pain this time, it would seem.
Little less.
How was your weekend? How was navigating the back pain? Like, I saw you guys had a gig. Your band had a gig. How was that in the midst of back pain? Lots of things. Lots of things happening.
It was crazy. This particular incident with the back pain, it's kind of I think I might have touched on it last week, but it's a reoccurring thing that happens every, I don't know, few years, where it's pretty dang bad. Sometimes it'll just be minor, but this time it really sucked. And so what happens is overnight when I'm sleeping, I'm kind of in one position, and then I try to get up in the morning and my back's like, F you, dude, no, quit moving. And it's really, really painful in the morning. And but then towards the evening, as I've kind of, been moving throughout the day, it gets better. And so Friday night was our actual gig. And so I was able to do that. But Sunday or Saturday morning, it took me an hour to get up, get out of bed, go to the bathroom, get dressed. Well, actually have my wife help me get dressed, because I was just in so much pain. I would stop. I'd have to stop and lay down and recover because it hurt so bad. And so we finally went to the ER, and they gave me some steroids and some muscle relaxers. So if you're wondering why I look so much more buff, it's the steroids.
Yeah.
And then I actually went to a dispensary, because in Colorado, that stuff's legal, and I got a 50 CBD, 1 THC
1-to-1
thing.
Yeah.
It's like the 50, the CBD is all painkiller. And then the 1 THC is just in order to activate the CBD.
Right.
So it doesn't actually get you high, just is supposed to help with pain and all of that. So that has helped. Ibuprofen, Tylenol, you name it.
Just a regular Walgreens in the Ross home these days.
Yeah, and I was saying though, but because I'm eating all of these medications and everything, I'm super thirsty. So I've just been downing water. So, in the end, having back problems is really good for your health, because you'll drink more water.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know. 1 out of 10 doctors recommend throwing out your back to increase your water intake.
Yep.
But I certainly can empathize and sympathize. I have been there. I think it was 2 years ago at this point, where I did something as simple as taking the dogs out, walking up the stairs to our apartment, and bent down to pick up the leash, stood up, threw out the back, and it was game over for a week. I couldn't function correctly. It sucked. So I feel your pain, but not really. I don't want to feel your pain, because it sucked.
You don't.
I don't. No, but I know what you're going through. All of that to say.
The one thing that it allowed us to do, though, because towards the evenings I would be feeling a little better and whatnot, and so we were a lot of couch time. So we were watching some movies and some documentaries, and my wife has a degree in theater and a minor in dance, and so musicals are one of the things that we really like. And we were watching this it's kind of a documentary on The Sound of Music. If you don't remember that, if you're too young for that, it's an old musical. Julie Andrews starred in it, and they were talking about some of the unique things that happened during the shooting. And one of the cool stories I thought was during the shooting of Sound of Music, Julie Andrews, she was giving an interview for, I don't know what magazine, or, I don't know what it was for, but she mentioned during the interview that she had bought this cheap lipstick that fell apart and made her breath stink, which I thought was really interesting because, I mean, in the end, her super color fragile lipstick gave her halitosis.
I'll have to ask my accountant about that.
That's Sweet's dad joke. Yeah, that was one of the better ones that
I liked
that
it a
we've done.
lot.
Yeah, very good. Delayed, but it was good. It was a good one. All right, so now that we are through the waffles, through the dad jokes, to the point of interest's house we go. To this week, I'm just gonna hit the bumper. That was completely botched. Cue it.
Point of interest.
The rose bloom is always oddly unsettling to me. Anyway, okay, so this week's point of interest, there are some price increases coming for some items, some shipping on one of the biggest distributors, biggest partners, print providers. That's the word I was looking for. Printful. So if you guys are using Printful, you may want to know that in a couple days, prices are going up.
Kinda.
Ish.
Kinda.
It's kind of a wash. Maybe.
So, all right, I'm gonna go live here on my screen, and it's actually some products are coming down, which is pretty cool. And to be fair, this is something that we have been seeing a little bit of in the apparel industry. We've seen prices go down from some of our vendors, even. So it makes sense that, you know, Printful's passing some of that along to you, but it seems like it might be in a little bit of a sneaky way. But let's kind of dive in, and you can tell me. So it's actually happening. Like everyone will listen to this on May 10th, on Wednesday, May 10th. It's actually happening on May 11th. So on Thursday, these new pricing, these pricing and shipping rate changes will apply. So most of this is like DTG hoodies, and you can go here to this pricing update and you can see all this stuff. But down here, if you keep going, and they've changed some of their embroidery service fees because they actually digitize for you, and they've just changed some. It's mainly stuff that they're basically saying, hey, what we did in the US, we'll also do in Canada and the UK for certain amounts. And yeah, so anyway, you scroll down here and you can see by country which of these products, these DTG products, are going down. And so the one that I was really interested in was specifically the 64,000 soft style shirt. It's one that we use as a kind of our you know, there's a good, our go-to, like our standard one. And so you click down the little drop down and you can see they actually only offer it in 5 colors. And it's probably one of the reasons they can keep their pricing so low. But currently today it's $9.95. On the 11th, it'll be $9.25 for these 5 colors, which is it's really a good price.
That's awesome.
Now the other thing that, you know, we sell a lot of is hoodies. On this particular page of like, hey, what's going up and what's going down? The only hoodie that they are listing is their unisex heavy blend hoodie, which is the Gildan 18500. And this one. Well, the pricing isn't bad. The current price is $22.95. It's going to go down to $21.95, except on, it looks like, you know, some of the 2X
plus sizes.
And, the plus sizes are going to be a little more, but it's going to go down basically $1. The problem with the 18500 or Gildan 18500, what 18,500? I don't know. Let's just call it the 185.
That's terrible.
Finger guns. Anyway, it's a 50-50. And so it's a cotton / polyester, 50% both. And so DTG, frankly, is just not going to be as vivid. It's not going to be as bright. It's not going to be as long lasting as it is going to be on a more cotton dominant or natural fiber dominant hoodie. And so I was like, man, if I was selling on Printful, I wouldn't want to sell these because I think they would be, tough to sell. And so,
Yeah.
Before we go into the shipping, I just quickly went over to Printful and said, oh, what other hoodies do you sell? And I found the actual one that we sell at Make Your Mark Design. It's the SS 4500. It's an independent trading company. So it comes from a specific vendor. It's not like Gildan, who has sold at multiple vendors. It's like, this is a vendor specific garment. But the price is $30.95 for your small through XL. Which I was like, wow, that's expensive. That's a lot more than we charge. And it made me think I need to raise my prices.
For sure.
But my point is like, they do have some cool colors though. They have like some sand and bone and mint colors and
color, in person, that mint color is great. I mean, it doesn't really do it justice, I don't think, but I've seen that mint color in person and it's pretty stellar.
It's pretty cool. Yeah. Alpine green, which is kind of like their forest. And the cool thing is you can also do embroidery on these. It's a little bit different, process and pricing probably when you get it done, because each of those have to be digitized, each design, but they do it super cheap because they're doing it in massive bulk. So they can. But my point is that if I was going to sell a hoodie, I darn well better know what kind of material this is. And if it's going to be a DTG, I need to make sure that it's cotton. And I don't see anywhere where they're saying anything about this. So I would definitely get a sample of the 18500 if you're planning on doing that. But anyway, the other interesting thing is that this SNS or this independent trading company hoodie is not on the price sheet for a decrease. So it's going to stay at that same price. But shipping, so all of these are coming down. There's a 3001, there's the next level 3600, which is their basic t-shirt, which these are great shirts. There's, some long sleeve shirts, there's some tank tops, all of those things are coming down. However, shipping is going up. So it used to be t-shirts were $3.99, now it's going to be $4.69. And then used to be additional product was $2. Now it's $2.20. So that's on t-shirts. So that's going up, what is that? 70 cents plus an extra 20 cents for each additional. Hoodies are only going up like 50 cents. And the additional product will stay at $2.50. So the interesting thing that I saw in this was like the way they're positioning themselves in the email they sent was like, hey, we're going to lower the prices on your DTG. And it's so great because we want to pass those savings on to you. And we're great. However, shipping's gone up a little bit. So we're going to have to, charge a little more for that. Oh, also, I'm not going to mention the fact that not all of our apparel is coming down, just a few pieces. So we're actually going to charge you more for many of the pieces of apparel that you sell, but a few of them will lower, and so overall, they're not really probably losing much money between the two things that they're doing. Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. It's a nice, if you do sell a lot of 3600s or 3001s, or even these soft styles. Yeah. Even though they only have 5 colors, if you can just sell these, that's a nice amount of money to put back in your pocket if you're selling a decent amount of them. So that was kind of, so for instance, like here's the custom t-shirts page, and like, look at all these different custom t-shirts. And there were only like 3 or 4 on the other page. So like if you sell, a men's garment dyed comfort colors, that's not coming down. There's just, so there's a lot of things that aren't coming down. None of the tie-dye shirts are coming down. None of the curved hem shirts are coming down. So you get the idea, but their shipping is going up. So that's kind of the lowdown on what Printful's doing as far as this price update happening on May 11th, this Thursday.
There you go. Informational. educational, and exposing the fact that yes, they are lowering the prices on a few things, but not really, because that's how business works.
Emotional damage.
All right,
It's
so
true.
with that being said, let's go straight into this week's main event.
Main event, who's calling?
All right, so for this week's main event, we mentioned it at the top of the show, and you probably know what we're going to talk about because you saw the title of the episode when you clicked on it to play it. So what I'm about to tell you doesn't really reveal any information that's new to you. 4 options to bring print-on-demand production in-house. So, Travis and I, we have a background in-house production because primarily that's what we've both done during our time in the print-on-demand industry. But we do realize that there's the majority of you, our listener, that's in a dropship phase of the journey, which is awesome. Absolutely nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But there might come a time when you are, going through your dropship journey that you might want to consider bringing some things in house. And so, what we're going to do is give you 4 options as to what that could look like, and then give you the answer. So, we're going to give you 4 hows, possibly, in our opinion, to do that. And then we're going to give you the when, which is the most important question to answer. But we're going to save that for last. Okay. And I'm going to pretend like you can't fast forward and find out the ending. And I'm not going to tell you. So the first of the 4 options would be really what Travis and we both did independently, of course, of one another, getting into the print-on-demand industry, but starting with sublimation. That's where we both started as far as in-house production is concerned.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we. If you've been a long-time listener, you know that I ran a conference for Amazon sellers for 3 years with another local seller in the Denver area, and we put on a conference called the Rocky Mountain Reseller Conference. And the second year, I remember hearing somebody talk about in the bar, like after hours, after all the sessions were done and everyone's just hanging out, they were talking about sublimating coffee mugs, and they were talking about how you could get a printer and you could get a conversion kit to where it would convert to using the dyes and that you need for sublimation, and you could do this and do that, and you could buy a cheap press on eBay. And so that's what I did. I was already selling on Merch by Amazon. I had thousands of designs already that I had, uploaded to that platform. And Amazon or Merch by Amazon, or Amazon Merch on Demand, as it's now called, was not doing coffee mugs, and still is not doing coffee mugs to my knowledge. And so I started using those designs and creating listings on Amazon, and by golly, they started selling. And, we just started going crazy. We were making them in my basement. I bought, these they were Chinese mug presses that were not worth it in the end, but they had you could do 2 at a time, 2 pressure points. And, we were just selling them and selling them and selling them and figuring out how to package them and all of that stuff, simultaneously just uploading as fast as we could. We created systems to try to upload them. And, but yeah, I mean, for a few $100s, I was, in the production game and fulfilling all my orders. And then eventually I put some of those, better selling mugs on Etsy. And then I put some of those on Walmart, and, just scaled it through that, and then put some of those designs on other products that, Amazon is still not selling. And that has been the way that we have scaled. But it all started with sublimation.
Yeah.
And sublimation isn't just coffee mugs either.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's kind of, I think people think about that maybe by default, but I mean, sublimation as a print method, like Travis, you're saying, is a low barrier to entry comparatively to other products or other print processes, I should say. And so you have a lot of products that have a smaller footprint, don't take up a whole lot of space, coffee mugs being one. But again, that's not all you can sublimate. You can
Right.
do shirts, you can do wall art, you can do tumblers, you can. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you can sublimate, and it's a low cost to get started. A mug press, if you want to
Mhm.
do coffee mugs, if you want to do something else, flat press, um,
Mhm.
drinkware, skinny tumblers, wine tumblers. So of course the blanks, the sublimation printer itself, which you can get a conversion kit like Travis did, or you can get a
Mhm.
Sawgrass, which you've heard us talk about before. But
Yep.
the mug presses, if you want a good place to go for those, Heat Press Nation, has a fantastic product. We were on their show
Yeah.
just a couple of weeks ago, actually chatting with them. So always would suggest supporting Heat Press Nation and their products.
Mhm.
And then sub printer like Sawgrass again for mugs, and the Epson F170 for the larger format.
Oh, that's the
Which is
F170 is, I think the F170 is the smaller one, like the Sawgrass
Oh, okay.
SG400 or SG500.
Yep.
And then there's the F570, which is the one we have. That's like a
Okay.
24
Yep.
wide.
Yep. So F170 is Epson's version of the Sawgrass.
The Sawgrass SG500. Yeah.
Yep.
And those are like $500. Heat Press Nation, like one of their good presses, you're looking at 250, something like that. A flat press, depending on where where you're getting it from, you can spend $1,000 to $3,000 on a flat press. But
Yeah.
again, Heat Press Nation, and then your actual supplies that you're going to get, they're going to range depending on what product you get. But we'll get into kind of some of the comparisons with what you can sell them for if you're buying them from a supplier or a vendor or a fulfillment partner like a Printful or a Printify or whatever, versus doing them in-house. We'll get into all of that, but
Right.
inevitably you're going to spend a lot less on those blanks than you are a fully decorated product
Yep.
from a fulfillment partner, because they're doing all the work, of course. So that's part of the journey, is deciding, do you want to do that work? Is it
Sure.
worth it to you? And we'll get into that later, because
Yeah.
no one will fast forward to that
Yep.
spot.
Exactly. The second thing to keep in mind, is how many items are you selling? If you're only selling a few items a week, it may make sense for you to just make them on your own. Because again, just like sublimation and as a low cost of entry, there's Cricut machines you can get, Glowforge, laser machines that are relatively inexpensive, that make really simple products, and they do a very good job. And if it is something that you're just wanting to start with and it's a lower volume, then yeah, you can definitely do that in-house. And then when the time comes, that of course in a perfect world you start selling like crazy,
Right.
you can look at outsourcing, or you can look at upgrading your equipment and keeping all the production in-house.
Yeah. I think, this particular point really goes to, the question, are you a crafty person? In other words, if you're only selling a few items a week, it may not make sense to outsource it and buy all the stuff that you need to do to, make a laser product or something like that. But if you're a crafty person and like you're going to use this for Christmas gifts for your family, and you're going to do something for your kid's birthday, or you have kind of that itch to make things and create things, it could kind of scratch two itches at the same time. It could scratch that craft itch, and then it could also scratch your selling on Etsy or Amazon itch. There's a lot of itches that are going to be remedied by this particular point. I mean, you could use a cream, but a Cricut machine or a Glowforge will work just as well for scratching those itches.
Yep. So, excuse me, my goodness. As we said, scaling with those machines would be difficult because they're not made for heavy production. But again,
right,
what a problem to have if you have to cross that bridge and decide which way you want to go. That's obviously ideal.
Yeah. And when we say, they're not made for heavy production, it's not like they're going to break or something. I mean, they could.
Sure.
The parts aren't going to be, as heavy duty as like an industrial machine, but what we're mainly talking about is like the speed at which you can do things. Like a Glowforge is not going to touch my epilogues back there,
Sure.
for speed and power. And so I can do a lot more, a lot quicker. And so I can scale better with, heavy production machines versus consumer grade machines. It should go without saying, but I went ahead and said it.
All right. Well, there you go. We just want to make sure everybody is on the same page.
Alrighty then.
So the third option is heat press vinyl, which you can do a lot of cool stuff with, to be fair. And it's a good way to, if you have designs that are selling, but you don't necessarily want to, I guess there are options to get heat press vinyl or vinyl transfers made and sent to you. If you don't want to have any equipment other than a heat press, you'll still need a heat press. Like at bare minimum, you're going to need a flat press in order to make this work. But they can be applied to garments or drinkware. Caveat, don't use a flat press on a mug. Okay. Get the appropriate mug. Each press will to its like kind. Okay. Don't be smashing mugs and then calling me and want me to pay for your machine because you broke it. And so, yeah, again, a Cricut could get you started as far as manufacturing the actual vinyl, should you want to do that, and not have them necessarily made and sent to you. You can, of course, I think one of the most, I don't understand why. Maybe it was the demographic of which I was soliciting business from at the time. And I don't, well, you'll see. You can do gems and bling. Or like a lot of people, primarily cheer clubs, dance schools. Okay, for those that are thinking that I was
jazz hands,
nefarious or untoward business types to sell products and t-shirts in. No, it was for generally those kinds of things where people are, well, can you do glitter? Can you do gemstones? Well, with vinyl, you can, is the answer. So that's another versatile or aspect of that process. So yeah.
There's some really cool vinyl, like textures, I guess, or patterns, I guess, that you can also get that, has all kinds of bling and shine and crazy patterns. And then you can obviously combine vinyl. So you can do multicolor designs. It's not super easy. The downside is the weeding part, which is where you remove the negative space that's not going to be applied to the garment or the product. But I mean, I guarantee you could go on Etsy today and you can find some sellers that are killing it with vinyl, and they got a vinyl cutter. Maybe they have a Cricut vinyl cutter, or maybe a little better one or whatever, but they are just going to town, and they're basically, it's like making stickers, that they're sticking on, or they're heat applying to, these different products. But I've seen a ton of them make really good money selling like those skinny tumblers, and just putting like the name up the side or something, or maid of honor or bride or something like that. And using different colors of vinyls and all of that stuff. That is definitely something that you could bring in-house relatively inexpensively, if you have put yourself in that market already, or if you want to put yourself in that market. I think it's pretty easy to be able to produce those things. Now, whether or not you can sell them, that's a whole nother episode.
Sure. Yeah, exactly.
But as far as bringing the production in-house to be able to provide that for your customers and make better money than you could having somebody else do it, that's definitely an option for you.
Yeah. And again, same caveat as with the last point is that should production, take off, again, perfect world scenario, what a problem to have. You're going to want a faster cutter or a faster process, better machines to just keep up with, again, more than anything, efficiency, speed, demand, that kind of stuff. So you're just not buried up to your eyes in orders while you're waiting for your Cricut to, slowly. I've never used one. I don't know how slow they are or not slow they are, but I'm just saying hypothetically, you would want something better. So, so keep that in mind. Again, and then the fourth option that we're going to talk about, something we've talked about quite a bit. I think episode 127, we actually sat and chatted in the lobby of our Long Beach hotel with Brandon Mills about this particular option, and it's called direct to film, DTF.
Mhm.
I had to say what it meant before I said the letters because, again, in conjunction with the people thinking that I sold sparkly things to untoward businesses, and I was also DTF, could be very confusing. Direct to
Very
film.
confusing.
Listen, if you have one or two designs that are doing well, you could consider DTFing those. And Travis, you have some experience like producing DTF and working with it
Yep.
as well, right?
Yeah. So there was a release probably 6 to 8 months ago that finally made it out to kind of some of the vendors where this is a long story, but or a long way to go around this. But um, the RIP software that our DTG machines use. So we have the F3070s, for color F3070s, and they use a RIP software direct from Epson called Garment Creator. And in the Garment Creator software, it basically prints the white base and then the color on top of it because you're putting it on a garment. In DTF, you have to do that backwards because you're printing directly to the film. And so about 8 months ago or so, Garment Creator put something in the back end of their software that nobody really knew about. And it was basically the code, if you will, to make buttons show up in your Garment Creator software that would reverse the process. So now it's going to first of all, it's going to mirror the image because you're printing it backwards, and it's going to print the color first, and then it's going to print the white on top of it. And then when it comes out, the DTF requires a glue. So we have this, it's basically a powdered glue substance, and then it goes onto the back of onto the white. And then you put that white or that film with the color white and glue in that order on like either you can hover press it and basically you're just melting the glue into the ink, or you put it in your your dryer. And so we actually have been doing this for some of our one-off projects where we're just basically trying to get really good with it. So we went into the software, the Garment Creator, and like put in the code or whatever to have that show up so we can do it in-house. Prior to that, and still on larger jobs, we are doing DTF through Stahl's Ultra Max direct to film product. We also use Supacolor, which it's not actually DTF, but it's very similar in the output. We're really kind of going back and forth and just trying to price out which makes more sense on the specific job that we're doing. And but those products have been invaluable to us. Now, when you're talking about production and like selling print on demand, obviously you can order these things one at a time, but honestly, your shipping and your handling are going to make them so much pricier than they would if you bought like 20 or 30. It probably doesn't make very much sense to just order every single print that you need individually every single time. You probably, in this particular case, you need to have a design or 2 or 5 that are selling really, fairly regularly, so you can order 20 of them and make it make sense to then order your T-shirt from, an S&S Activewear or an Alpha Broder or a Sanmar and get the T-shirts in, and then also have your DTF film on hand to press with your flat press. And again, in the end, you can really save a lot of money, particularly if you're going to, put it on like a 3001 or a 3600 or, some of those, or a garment dyed shirt that they're, Printful wants $15 for plus, 4.5 shipping or whatever it is.
Sure.
You might be able to all in get that done for $5 or $6, and then ship it for $3.50. So you can see where the savings would add up if you're doing that often and doing that a lot. So depending on what your output is, your final product that you're producing, you could really potentially save a lot of money going the direct to film route and ordering those in,
Yeah.
having them on hand for your best sellers.
Yep. And again, it's another one of those things. You might have mentioned this as well, but another one of those things that you just need to heat press, and it can go on all kinds of products. Again, same caveat: don't use a mug or a flat press. God, stop trying to do that.
But these this can go on, like the cool thing about direct to film is that you can now sell polyester. You could sell that 50/50
right.
Gildan.
That's right. We have a
fine.
solution for that thing, because we were talking about this, Travis, before we press record. In all of my time using the 50/50 hoodies, I could never get it to look right.
Right.
I could never let it to look vibrant. It always looked worn, and then I'd always put too much pre-treat on it, and then it would come out looking scorched, or like it lived in a smoker's home, or like, you know what I mean? And so people would be like, well, it's the cheapest option. Is it good because it's a cheap option? And I'd say,
Yeah, it's good if you're cheap bastard.
I never actually said that. I just really wanted to use that sound bite. It's how I feel, but I never said it. One of my favorite movie scenes of all time. Go watch it later. Okay, so number 5, bonus, which is the end of it, and the answer to which we alluded to earlier that you didn't fast forward to in the midst of your listening pleasure. So the idea is, we told you how to bring production in-house. But the other question is when. And full transparency, when we started writing this episode and kind of the notes around it, the original thought was 4 ways to know when it's time to move production in-house. And we sat and I stared at a blank page and I said, well, there's really only one. One way, and no one's gonna click on anything that says the one way, because people like options. So the answer to that is, honestly, when the volume justifies it and when the margins make sense. Okay, so Travis is going to share his screen. You're going to walk us through kind of what that means. So for those of you that are listening, you might need to pause, or just listening on audio, pause, maybe rewind, take some notes. If you're watching on video, you can follow along with this lovely illustration that is brought to you by our virtual Vanna White, who doesn't exist, but it's still going to be on the screen. So anyway, Travis, what exactly do we mean when we say when the volume justifies it and when the margins make sense?
Basically, we mean that, all business decisions need to be based on math. So
I hate it.
Sorry, not true. Sorry.
I hate
sorry,
math
not
so
sorry.
much.
So when you're doing this math, it's going to be based on volume, like you said, and it's going to be based on your margins. And then it's also just going to be based on your, lifestyle desire, like what, if you just want to have this on the side and have less margins because you value, your free time and not having to have orders or whatever come into your production flow, then that's one thing, but if you really want to make the most possible money and you have some extra free time, or you have, children that can help you and, you just want to get some cheap labor, all of that, will play a role in this. But I just wanted to give you a couple of examples. So let's go back to my screen here. So here is Printful. And so Printful is here selling a digitally printed button, a 2.25-inch button for $9.25. So they'll make you a button and ship it to your customer for $9.25. Shipping starts at $4.50. Okay, so that seems to me, because I know kind of the other side of this, that seems pretty dang expensive. So I went and I looked, and if I wanted to, I could buy these 2 5-inch buttons that include everything I need to have, the Mylar, the shell, and the pinned back. And I can get 50 of these for $15.60. Now, to be fair, I do have to spend, a couple $100, $150 to $300, depending on which style of button presser that I want. And you can kind of see them down here. They basically just have a 2 chambers, and you put one part in, and then you press it, and then you spin it around, and you press it again, and then you spin it around, and you press it again. Obviously, I need a printer to print out, the color things, the actual buttons and all of that. But $925 plus $450 versus, that's 50 cents, less than 50 cents a button. You can also ship these things for, a lot less, I would guess, considering, they're really, really light. You could probably send them in a padded bag, maybe $2.50, $3 first class, something like that. So all in, you could sell these buttons. Heck, you could sell them for $9.25 on Amazon or Etsy and make a decent amount of money, and charge $3.50 for shipping or something. And you're still making, $4 or $5, heck, $6 or $7 on your actual cost. Now, all of that's got to go towards your machine and your labor, if you're going to do it, or if you're going to pay somebody to do it, et cetera, et cetera. But that's one option. I don't know, Josiah, you're muted. I don't know if you have anything to say on any of that.
Oh, I didn't know.
Have you been commenting the whole time?
Yeah, but yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah. Dude. Yes. And then it's been muted. But yeah.
And then it's done.
That's a good example of crunching those numbers to figure out again. And the biggest question is when you're thinking or when you're working through this is how many of those buttons for the sake of this example, do I have to sell to justify the cost of the additional equipment and everything I have to buy? The cool thing, the one thing that I love about print on demand and the dropship model is it does allow you a lot of it facilitates the proof of concept kind of theory where if you're selling buttons like crazy through Printful and you run your numbers like, holy crap, I sold 250 of these buttons. And if I brought it in house, then okay, well then I know that if I have another month like that, I'll just pay off the expenses or whatever that looks like to bring it in house. So it does give you a good opportunity to kind of see what designs are working, or not even designs necessarily, just products. Are buttons going gangbusters? Are they gang buttons? We don't know. Maybe that's a sub niche if you live in California or New York. Gang buttons. You can have that IP. I don't want anything to do with that when the lawsuits come. So anyway, but it gives you an opportunity to really not only have to work those numbers, but it could give you some proof of concept to help you figure out those numbers or make those decisions quicker, depending on how long you've been on, whatever dropship platform.
Right. And then the other thing is, goes back to our other, I think point 2 or something, but when we talked about, are you crafty, or are you a hustler? I mean, you could probably go find in some Facebook groups ways to sell 100 buttons for a local, fun run or something, or any of those types of things, and in your local community where you could pay off that whole that entire investment in one order simultaneously while you're selling on Etsy or or Amazon or wherever else. So you have the ability to not have to charge $10 or $15 a button, and do something local that'll help pay some of that off. So the other example I had, and I'll just go through this really quick, is the mug example. So, the mugs on Printful for an 11-ounce mug, a white mug, it's $7.95 plus $6.49 to ship. And that's going to be 7 to 10 days. So that's another consideration. If you can get a product there sooner, you can do one of two things. You can it probably increase your sell-through, your conversion rate on your page, because they see that they'll get it faster and they want that. Also, you'll be able to sell closer to holidays. Then when a lot of people have to stop their sales, you'll still have 3 or 4 more days that you can continue to sell, because you can do the production in-house even the same day and get it out, because you're in control of that whole, as long as you have the products in stock, you can do it. So that's another thing to consider that we didn't really touch on, but for just the numbers, so you got $7.95 here and then $6.49 to ship. At JP Plus, you can get a case of economy mugs, 11 ounce, for $44.95 for 36, which basically gives you about $1.25 per mug. So after if you've bought your sublimation printer, you've bought your heat press and all of that stuff, and you've got that, and you're selling, maybe you're selling a case every month, so how long would it take you? You need to figure out how long it would take you to spread that gap between $7.95 and $1.25. And, by the time you put your ink on there and you use the piece of paper and you have all of that, maybe you're close to $1.50, maybe $1.45, something like that. Then you have to decide how you're going to ship it. So maybe another 50 cents to $1, depending on that. So now you're at $2.50 versus $7.95. So, I mean, there's a $5.45 spread there, plus $6.49 to ship. That's probably the highest first class rate I'm going to see, shipping all the way like 9 zones away. If I'm only shipping it, downtown or, one state over or something, I might pay $1 less there. So I'm also probably going to save on shipping over time. So that $4.45 is now, close to $6, that by me doing it. And that's the question. Is it worth me doing it? Or having somebody do it for $6 every time one of those sells. And then you also have to realize you're taking the responsibility, because if it breaks in the mail, that's on you, versus Printful probably is going to cover that if it breaks on the way to the customer. So a lot of decisions, and they're all based on, well, I guess they're not all based on math. They're based on math and your personal preferences. Like, as far as, are you crafty? Do you want to do this? Do you feel like maybe there's another market that you could tap into on the side that would support what you're doing online? I think that would be a fantastic way to go about it. Just figuring that out.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you have it, folks. 4 ways, 4 options to bring print-on-demand production in-house, and then also an answer as to when you should do it. Again, if you have any questions, the best way to get a hold of us. Well, first of all, I forgot to say this last week. If you don't like social media, you can just email us, info@printondemandcast.com. That is where we will interact with you, answer your questions, if you have any suggestions, so on and so forth. If you are a social media person and Facebook is your thing, of course, printondemandcast.com/Facebook. I wonder, side note, how many people can recite this whole diatribe with me? printondemandcast.com/Facebook is where you go to join the group and the conversation. If you have any questions for us, for other people in the group, is there a 5th way you thought? A 5th option, 6th option? Let us know. We want to hear from you guys as well. Again, we are also on Instagram and on YouTube. The way you find that, of course, printondemandcast.com/ and then whatever respective platform you want to watch us on is where you go. And then you can just go to printondemandcast.com, just without the backslash or / or any slash. And that's where you can find information about the show. It's where you can sign up for the newsletter, where we send you informational tidbits each and every week, along with an additional dad joke. I will have to say that Travis will have to hunt very long to find one additional dad joke to beat the one that we had today on the show, because it was GOAT status. And I'm not talking about the animal or LeBron James. Okay, so if you guys are listening to us on Apple Podcasts, please leave us a review and a comment. Let us know what you think of the show. That helps the algorithms. That helps people find the content. Another way you can do that is just share this episode. There's a share button on Spotify, on Google, on Apple Podcasts, where you can share to your favorite platform. And speaking of favorite platforms, if we weren't on your favorite platform already, we certainly
Boom.
are now, if you know what I mean. And then by that, I mean, look at the screen. We are now on Amazon Music. We are on iHeartRadio and Castbox. So, again, we are on all of those platforms now, brand new to them, so you can find us there as well. But thank you guys so much for listening. We look forward to being with you again next week. But until then, for Travis, I'm Josiah, and we'll see you right here on the Print on Demand cast.
See ya.
Hey, babe, thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Print on Demand cast. We hope you enjoyed the Totally Tubular Show. If you've got a question or a suggestion for the show, send Travis and Josiah an email at info@printondemandcast.com. Want to be wicked nice? Take a minute to rate and review the show on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe now so you don't miss next week's episode. See you next time, for sure.